Hi everybody, this is Cheryl St.Pierre and this is a video I'm making with Beebeecraft. I've got these wonderful crazy agate diamond beads from Beebeecraft in my package, and I wanted to, this is what I intended to make with it. It's a beautiful bracelet. I'm calling it diamond crisscross bracelet. Now I don't mean diamond as in a diamond ring. I'm just the diamond shape of the stone. So I also want to say you could do this with round stones too. It just has a really, really nice look on these particular stones, and the pink crazy lace or crazy agate beads just look so good with copper as well. And once they're oxidized and they get darker, it will stick out even more and look just awesome, just awesome. So I wanted to say, because I'm linking these together, that I say in my list to use 10 inches of copper per link. I found it a little small. I think some beads are larger than others. So give yourself 10.5 inches, and that'll be in the next step. I also wanted to give a blurb out for Beebeecraft. They are looking for more people doing the package opening with them and teaching tutorials. If you have a channel and you have 100 subscribers, that's all you need in order to apply to do the same thing that I'm doing here. I will have the information or the link to apply in the description, and you could check it out for yourself. So, and we're going to move on. So for your supplies, this is what you're going to be needing. We're using 20 gauge wire, which is 0.8 millimeters. I'm using dead soft copper. And I'm using about 10 inches per each bead link. And I'm going to use some scrap wire to make the infinity links for the end. And we're using the diamond crazy agate beads from Beebeecraft, and the link will be active in the description on below the video. And a toggle clasp. Now I had intended on using the toggle clasps, the antique brass that came with my kit or my package this time, but the color just was so off, I didn't think it would work. You never know. So I'm using this copper bracelet toggle clasp. Well, it's not bracelet, but toggle clasp. And I got this long time ago. So it is with Beebeecraft. So it is a Beebeecraft product. I don't know if they still have it, but you could look around on their site if you're needing to find something that'll work for you. I recommend finding one with a copper finish, because you never know what the brass finish is going to look like. Okay, so for tools, we're going to use the round nose pliers, the chain nose pliers, the flush cutters, a ruler, and possibly a file if you have, just to take away any burrs that might dig into the skin. Hopefully you won't have to use the file, but it's there. And something I didn't put on the list, but I would recommend having around, is this is a homemade bracelet sizer that I use. All it is some cardstock. This is from, just ordinary 8 by 11, 8.5 by 11, whatever it is. This is the 11-inch length. I've got it about 2 inches wide, and I've marked the inches from one end to the other, and we always start with, with the number 1 on the outside, and you just make it nice and small and fit it inside your bracelet, and it will tell you what wrist size it'll fit. Not what size the bracelet is, but the wrist that will fit inside of it. So that's more important than the length of your bracelet. Some people just write down this bracelet is such and such a length, but if your beads are thick, that gives an inaccurate size. So this is what I recommend for everybody, and no cost, basically. So let's get started. So first, what you're going to need to do is take your scrap wire and your round nose pliers, and we're going to make 2 infinity links to add onto the toggle. That's going to be what we're going to do first. And I'm making the loops fairly small because I want it to be strong, and I kind of want it to be hidden. I'm hoping that because the beads are so big, that we can get a good size on it. You know, of course, you might want to adjust it. There's different ways a person can do the adjusting. And I'm going to make 2 of these while I'm at it. So, talking about adjustments, you could add more links like this, or you could add some crystals in between. I'm sure if you've made bracelets before, you have lots of ideas of what you can do to make a bracelet, adjust the size of a bracelet. So now I'm going to work harden this. Because it's so small, it's going to be strong anyways, but I'm squeezing it, I'm pulsating. See, I'm showing my hands because I'm pulsating pressure into the metal, which is going to work harden it and make it much stronger. You could use pre-hardened wire too, but it's always good to use scraps with little things like this. And you just do it over and over again. You could use an anvil and hammer as well. Just do it softly. And you just do it until it's hard enough. You think that it can be powerful enough for a bracelet. And just keep at it. Okay, so I'm going to stop now and I'll do the rest off of camera so I'm not eating up your time here. And I'm going to pause. Okay, now I'm going to put those little clasps infinity links onto my clasp. And I'm going to then take an approximate measure of the clasp with them on. Okay, got that one. Okay, so I've got that, and it is tiny, so you can barely see it. Whoa. Hopefully I was in frame there. So you can barely see it. It just barely peeks out. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be kind of hidden, but enough distance that it won't show, or it will show the beads. I do remember that getting this in here is difficult. So you're never going to have to worry about your bracelet getting undone on you while you're wearing it. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. And I'm going to measure that. And again, I've got a ruler here that needs to be thrown out. And I'm not sure why I haven't. Okay, so it's a 1 1/4 inches, and I have one link made ahead of time, and guess what? It's 1 1/4 inches too. So I'm going to start with making 7 links. I don't know what wrist size it's going to make. I will measure it afterwards, but I'm going to make a total of 7 links, and we'll see what it does, because the links are so wide that it's going to have so much airspace in between, because it's going to, the bending is going to be different, that it's going to affect the size. That's why it's always good to measure the size after your bracelet's made. Okay, so we're going to go from there, and so I'm just going to set this aside. Oh, I wanted to also talk about the beginning of your bracelet will have to have a link that goes up and down, and the end will have to too. So we need to keep that in mind. And when I make these bracelets, now you can do your own thing, but I usually try and make one going one direction and the other going the other direction, but the end one will have the same directions on both, I believe, in order to accommodate. Yes, because it'll have to be up and down as well. So the end one will have both of them up and down. So that's no worries. So you can do your own method, but that's what I do. And I'm going to take 10 inches of wire and one of my beads, and I'm going to slide it on. Now, I did find that some of the beads are a little on the tight side. This one's nice and loose, but this one was tight. I had to fight to get it on the wire. So if that's something that you're going to deal with, you could use 22 gauge wire. Okay, so what I want you to do is get the bead at the approximate center of your wire, and it's difficult. It's difficult. How am I going to handle this? This one really slides. The other one didn't slide. Okay, I'm holding it into place. Now I'm going to put the pliers to give the distance of how much wrap I want. I really don't want a lot. So enough for 2 wraps. And I'm going to bend it. And now I can actually take the bead off, because it's just going to be a nightmare to move around and I'll end up losing it. So I'm going to make a nice small loop about the same size as we'd made for the infinity link, which was, you know, just almost the same size you do for the top of an earring, but it could be just a tad bigger. I'm making a loop and then 2 wraps. So it's an eye loop and 2 wraps. Okay, so now at this point, I need to put the bead on. I don't know if I've got this the right direction or not. I'm not going to stress about it now, because we can, guess what I did? I wanted to make that an open loop. I still can. Okay, I'm not. Ignore me, ignore me. It's nighttime and I'm a little tired, so my brain is not doing its thinking as well as I would like. Okay, so in order to do the crisscross pattern, we don't want it to be tight against the loop. We want it to have some space, because we want to try and make it consistent so it crosses in the middle. So now I'm going to actually take it around the bead, not exactly around the wire. I don't want it tight, because I want it to be crossing in the middle-ish. And it might be hard to do. And our wrap, we're going to do, see how I did that? You need to take your time to do that. And now I'm going to do the wrap and re-wrap on that, and we're making a messy look, because it's going to have a messy look anyway. So let's embrace the messy look. Okay, so it only has a couple wraps there, but it's bulky and messy. This is a bulky look, so it might be messy too. And now I'm going to snip it off and try and crimp that end off so we don't have any pokies to go in somebody's wrist. Crimp it in. And if you can't get it to not have get it crimped in, this one crimped in really good. But if you couldn't have, you would then take a file and file it off. Hopefully you don't have to do that. Hopefully you can just tuck it in really good. There, it tucked in super good. Okay, now I'm going to do the same process on the other side, but I'm going to make sure I attach this bead to it. Okay, so your round nose pliers, same distance. Do my loop, but I'm not doing the wrap. I'm just put the loop there. And now I'm sliding on this bead like that. And now I need to take the chain nose pliers to hold that loop so I can do the wrapping. Okay, and I'm going to stop that way. And now come around the bead so it's a little bit on the wider side. Straightening it because it was curved, because I want it to go in the center. And make it around. And have a nice crisscross. And then wrap around the other end. Now you might find 10 inches a little short for you. If that's the case, then give yourself 11 inches. I think 10 is the bare minimum you would want to go. Especially if you were using silver, this would be the length. This bracelet would use an awful lot of silver. I think copper in this pink, especially, I'm going to oxidize it afterwards to make it match the toggle and buff it. You might want to consider doing that too. Okay, so you see how I obviously picked the wrong end, the wrong loop to attach to it. Don't stress out about things like that. It's easy to fix. You just flip that over. See? And it's done. And now I'm going to flip this one over too. Just because I like to have a consistent look in the middle. Not everybody's like that. That's just one of my little idiosyncrasies, I think. Okay. I'm just fixing this a little bit to be more centered. And this one too. Broke my nail doing that. Maybe I shouldn't use my nail. There. Okay, that's a little bit more centered. And then you just continue on. Now, I'm not going to do the same thing because it's the exact same process all over and over and over again. And I'm going to do 7 beads and attach the clasp. And I'll be back when all of that is done. Okay, so I'm back and I have 7 beads done. And so the next step is to put the clasp on. But in order to be ready to put the clasp on, we have to make sure that the links are facing the right way. And we need, for this particular bracelet, I have, both of them have to be going up and down. So I have to make sure that this is up and down and it's kind of at an angle. And you know, you're gonna want to also check to see how flat it lays. You can even test it on your wrist like this. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love these beads with the copper. It looks awesome. Okay, so I'm going to fix that, and you can you know, do your checks and make sure everything sits nice. So this, I just want it to be up and down, and then I can add the clasp on. And I also want to, you know, this is really, what's the good word for it? They're not perfect, and there's no way that you ever will make it perfect. But you can make it so that they have fairly similar crisscrosses. And with practice, you'll get better at it too. So it's more organic. That's the word I'm looking for, because it's not going to be perfect. Like this one's smaller than that, but it's still pretty. Like this one's quite a bit different. Yeah, it's got a really nice look to it. So I'm opening this up. I wanted to show you how it's not always easy to do because it's moving around. So I'm going to struggle with it, and you probably will too. Okay, now need this up and down. And sometimes when you twist it, it'll bend your wires, and you just have to fix it as best you can. But yeah, it's got a definite organic look to it. It's a bulkier neck, a bracelet. And now I'm going to flatten this. We want to make sure it's flat. Okay, so that's done. And the way it sits, it can go either way. So there's no upside down or right side up with this toggle. So that's kind of a nice feature. So this one, you just put it on however, and whatever it works out to is going to be the top of your bracelet. But every toggle is different. So yours might not do the same thing that this one does. It just keeps moving on me. Sorry about that. Oh, make sure that's up and down, and it is. Close it up. Flatten it. And there, it's done, except for the oxidizing part of things. I mean, you can leave it like this and it'll oxidize on the wrist by yourself. It looks rather large for me personally. It's very large for me personally. I couldn't wear it. It just falls right off my hand. But let's measure it and see what that is. I think for me personally, I would have to go down to 6 links. Okay, it says it fits a 7 1/4 inch wrist. Oh, that's upside down, but that's okay. It doesn't matter for the size. 7 1/4. Yes, or 7 1/2. It stretches out 7 1/2. So they say rule of thumb is to have the bracelet 1/2 inch bigger than your wrist, but this does give room already in there. So I would say, yeah, 7 to 7 1/4 inch wrist this would fit. There, isn't that pretty? I love it. I might have to make a second one to fit me. Okay, well, thank you for joining me in this video. Thank you, Beebeecraft, for the gorgeous beads. They're wonderful. And we will see you in the next one. God bless everybody. Bye for now.